Speaking of favorite ways to troll men, I love when they're going batshit crazy in my DMs and I'm just leaving it on red.
Mm-hmm.
Like they can see it and it's driving them crazy because I'm not reacting. And then I'm just like posting like, oh, I'm out with my friends smoking or eating. And it's just like watching them go berserk.
Man, icing.
Why are they going berserk? Like what?
Because it's what they're doing is they're trying to get attention. So they're being disrespectful. They're being they're just intentionally trying to get you to react. But you have to know, like, the more that you let them look stupid and feel crazy, let them spiral.
It's the Lasagna Ganja podcast. I'm Mr. X to the Z Exhibit.
And I'm your girl, Tammy, a.k.a. the Cannabis Cutie.
And we have another exciting episode of Lasagna Ganja for you today. We are talking to one of the staples of cannabis podcasting. Because there's a lot of people that start podcasting and they don't make it.
Man, there's 5 million podcasts in the library.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I learned that fact today.
So today we are talking to a staple, someone that's highly respected.
With the coolest name.
Yes. Her name is Mary Jane. Yes. Mary Jane is here with us from
She is from Weed+Grub. She co-hosts that with Mike Glazer. It's so funny.
Yes. And her take on cannabis is exciting. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about how she got into podcasting, where she was before, how she met up with Mike, her view on it. It's going to be amazing. So Mary Jane is here with us today, Lasagna Ganja Podcast.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much. Congratulations on the podcast.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just getting
Veteran
started.
like you, thank you.
Yes.
It's a huge deal.
And you know, as doing our homework, getting into this before we started, there's not many real cannabis podcasts that are dealing with trying to be informative, entertaining, creative at the same time.
Yeah.
So we really look up to what you've done so far.
Thank you
And
so much.
5 years in, is there any, before we get started, is there any advice that you can give us going into this, doing this podcast in this genre?
Yeah.
Consistency is key, which is the most boring thing to say, but like that's what I'm most proud of that Mike and I have done is that we've never missed an episode. No matter what's going on in our lives or in the world, we've always managed to come together and make something happen no matter how we're feeling. And being honest on the podcast, like if one of us is going through something, we talk about it on the pod. And I feel like that consistency and relatability is what has kept us going this long. And I feel like I love your vibe together. And that's also the thing is like finding that banter that you obviously have.
Yeah.
It's so good. So I think that that would be my consistency, relatability and vibe.
Yes, absolutely. And, before podcasting, give us a little history about where you came from, like how you got introduced to cannabis, where it led you up into the point that you had the podcast idea.
Whoa, that's my whole life.
Yeah.
Whoa. Well, I grew up in Newfoundland in Canada.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. Have you been?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. You played?
I've been in Canada. Yeah. Absolutely. What's it called?
Newfoundland.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been there.
Yeah, it's the rock off the East Coast where the Titanic sank, basically.
Wow.
So everyone knows it. Like when that submersible blew up recently.
Yeah.
with
Oh
the
my
billionaires.
Dude, I've been all over Canada. Like,
I'm touring everywhere. You've probably seen more of Canada than anyone.
Yeah. Saskatoon, all over.
What's your favorite city?
I went sturgeon fishing in this city. I can't remember the name of it, but I went sturgeon fishing. Biggest shit ever. Bait was fucking horrible. It's just roe. It's like fish eggs. They put it in a bag. You got to throw it out, and it's big ass fucking sturgeon. Only indigenous people natives can keep it.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? But if you catch this release, but I had a great time in Canada.
That must have been in British Columbia, probably.
Yeah, somewhere.
Yeah.
There.
I worked on a salmon boat in Alaska for a while. If you want to talk about fish, I was a deckhand on a salmon boat.
Real quick, give us a fishing boat story, just real quick. Gotcha. That's fucking amazing.
So I worked on a salmon boat for 4 seasons, and it was the greatest job I've ever had, apart from working in cannabis. I guess the time I went overboard would probably be the craziest story that I have.
Like, that's some real shit though. Alaska waters are Yo, that's like Deadliest Catch type shit.
I mean, I play it up like it was that bad. It wasn't that bad.
Okay. Woo, I was about to say, man, was it storming or was it?
It was when we were docking, and I fell between the boat and the dock, though. And
that would have been crushed.
Scary.
Yeah, it was a big boat because, we had a huge operation. And so luckily someone on the dock saw me go into the water and shouted,
"Oh, God.
Man overboard." And the skipper managed to throw that, there was a twin screw engine. And so he managed to pull it away.
Oh, my God.
And they fished me out of the water, and I was in the doghouse because it was
my bad.
How did
you fall over? How did it happen?
We had to move the line from one side to the other. We were supposed to tie up starboard side, and there was someone in our spot, so we had to move the line over. And as I was moving that big heavy line over, those huge cleats, I just tripped over the cleat and fell into the water. But the crazy thing was I had a premonition that it was going to happen. Like a few minutes before I went in the water, I had this feeling. And then it happened. It was totally bizarre.
Oh my God.
But I was glad somebody caught that.
Yeah, me too. It was wild.
You should definitely always play that up. That sounds horrifying.
Yeah.
I could have been popped like a grape between me and the pilings.
Wow, that's amazing.
Job. Yeah.
But I mean, okay, well, thank God that worked out.
Yeah. Well, I saw the fishing poles, and I was like, maybe we can talk a little bit about fish.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love fishing. I love
amazing.
it. I love it. I go fishing all the time. It's like my therapy. Where I can quiet the noise and kind of make important decisions and then come back.
Oh,
yeah.
I love that.
And get out in the water.
I love fishing, but I am traumatized. I went to take my 3-barb hook and cast it into the water, and my twin brother happened to be a couple of yards behind me. And so when I casted it, I was like, where's the hook?
In him.
In his neck.
No!
Yeah. Yeah.
Like hooked?
He was hooked.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So that, ever since then, I've been kind of like, do I want to do this?
Well, ocean fishing, you don't have to cast it that far. You can just drop it down in the ocean.
Okay, that's easy.
Much there, yeah.
That's easy.
You can just drag a herring around.
But I don't want to cast anything.
Wow. He's okay, though?
Oh, he was fine then. It didn't get him that bad. But when I tell you he hated my guts.
Yeah.
But I was like, but they teach you not to stand by. All right, I'll take that out.
Yeah, unforgivable.
Okay. Let's get back to it.
Well, I grew up in Newfoundland. My dad was a fisheries scientist. He was a salmon biologist. So that's why we grew up. He moved the family there. And my grandmother was a fisheries scientist, and my sister was a shark scientist. So it's like a very fishy family.
That's so
and
cool.
Yeah, it was a really nice way to grow up, and just being outside all of the time. And so the first time I experienced any kind of thing that elevated me was actually mushrooms that would just, we'd pick them off the golf course and go run around and
feel great.
Yeah. And it was the best time because there was just it was open door policy. It was the 80s. So we were all latchkey kids. So, you just come home anytime. And it was a really good way to grow up, like a very peaceful place, Well,
Canada was safe at that time. Well, it's safe right now. Canada's the safest shit ever.
Yeah, it felt that way. And where I grew up, the cops didn't even have guns when I was a kid.
Oh, shit.
Until 1998, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a great place to grow up and take mushrooms and run around. And then my first experience with any kind of cannabis was hash. It was all hash imported from Europe. And I did hot knives with my friend Doug in his basement. And,
wow.
I was like, whoa. And that kind of blew me away. It was a little too intense.
Yeah.
So then I moved to Montreal, where I fell in with some folks who just smoked good bud. And that was sort of my...
No.
What's
BC bud? That's British Columbia.
Oh, Beasters, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it wasn't great weed, but they were cool people. And
No, there was plenty of BC bud that floated down from the top of California all the way there. It's a long time.
Okay.
Until it started really getting really big with cultivation here.
Yeah.
BC bud was very easily. It was good. It was good to go.
Okay.
And that's what they call Beasters, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, exactly. Them units used to come through in the turkey bags. You know what this is.
Nice.
I love Canadians.
Yeah. I'm so glad to be here. So I was born in the States. I have dual citizenship. And so I decided after a long time of traveling and working abroad, after I graduated from theater school, I moved to the States.
Okay.
Theater school. Let's talk about that. So theater school, you prefer you talking about plays, you talking about You know, like singing and all that.
Yeah, not so much singing. I mean, I love to sing, but I'm probably the only one who
Yeah.
really loves I leave the music up to the professionals.
Right. Okay, all right. Yeah.
But I went to a theater school that's a conservatory program that is very like theatrical classics, Shakespeare, Chekhov, that kind of stuff. And a lot of my classmates are now at like the festivals, you know, where they're doing like huge theater, and it's so exciting. And then a few of my friends moved into movies. And it's been awesome just to watch everyone's careers. So yeah, that was in the 90s, and I graduated from theater school and was acting and traveling around Europe. And then I moved to Seattle where I was acting, and then I landed in New York, and that's where I moved here from. So it was like my acting and writing career took me all over. It was great.
Amazing.
Yeah, dude, that is so dope. When you said you performed, I didn't know what performing you were talking about, but now acting is a whole different thing. Theater is hard. You know what I'm saying? Once you get in the what do you? Because I got a friend that does Shakespeare. Like he went to theater school as well. Paige Kennedy. Paige Kennedy is like you look at him. You know your brother's from Detroit. You know, but he'll rattle off a soliloquy, you know, from Shakespeare, like it's nothing, and it's long monologues, and he's just rattling it off with all this emotion. It's like, yo, he definitely doesn't smoke. You know what I'm
It's true. The theater community are mostly nerds who don't smoke a whole lot.
Yeah,
But then you find your pockets.
Yeah, his short-term memory is fully intact.
Yeah, that's so funny. I definitely like the sort of rigor that it takes to be a theater actor is so fascinating, because it's your whole instrument, like a musician who tours, right? I think it's the same thing. You have to be so in tune with everything. Whereas, you know, a film actor, you can really, like, it's all about micromanaging the small stuff. But like, I find theater actors to be the most impressive.
They've got a command. Yeah.
And when you see someone who can really take a stage, it's just so exciting.
You've got to fill all those voids. With editing, they can just splice it and make it look a certain type of way, but you really have to command that stage presence like a performer.
Yeah, I mean, I did like speech and drama shit like that in high school, so that doesn't count. The reason I stopped, because I got the opportunity to act from doing television.
I know.
And so my first film I was in, it was XXX2 with Ice Cube. And it was like at the height of, you know, being on Pimp My Ride and all this stuff. So they knew I was going to put asses in the seats. They put me in the movie. I didn't even audition. I was like, I got this. Horrible performance. I looked at my face on the screen on TV. You're like, as big as your face is about body as big as that water bottle. That's about it. On a movie screen, that shit is like 50 feet tall. So you seeing everything. You're like, oh shit, that's bad. It's like, that's loud. You know what I'm saying? That whole performance is stinky loud. And so I was like, you know what? Let me take this serious. So from that, I withdrew. I took some acting classes, and my coach was like, really, like, you have to figure out if you want to do this, like, you love music. Because if you don't do it and have the same kind of commitment, it's not going to serve you to do this. And so I was like, okay, cool. So maybe do some plays, maybe do a lot of work, you know, script work. Even if I didn't get the part, we still did the work. We still did the film. And eventually I started learning how to take the things that I thought I did well and put them down, because it's always bad. I'm trying to bring musician stuff into what I'm doing, you know what I'm saying, on the stage or in front of the camera. So I ended up, you know, just like really taking it serious, going through that. And then to the other films I've done, you know, I like better performances. I can show different, you know, dynamics there.
Yeah.
Where I was just one note. The first one I was like sound like a chainsaw. I was like, ooh.
Well, I think it's so interesting, because talent is everything, obviously, but the craft is what makes the talent sing. If you don't have the craft and the technique behind that talent, it's so interesting.
And you have to use it. It's you know, people have natural talent, but if you don't exercise it or use it, it's just like a muscle that will shrink on you.
Atrophy.
It will atrophy.
Yeah. Okay, good to know. I'm glad. We're learning a lot about Mary Jane. We're on the Lasagna Ganja podcast. If you're just tuning in, we're gonna eventually get to the part where she has an outstanding cannabis podcast. We're gonna get to that, but right now we're just getting to know the woman, the myth, Mary Jane, right here with us on Lasagna Ganja. So okay, so you got out of the theater, you were in New York, and then you go from where? You go from there.
So I was acting in New York, which is impossible to live because, actors make zero money in New York, costs $1 million. And so I had a friend who worked at High Times. She was the managing editor of High Times, and we all hung out. We were just friends. I was like friends with all the folks who worked at High Times. We'd just hang out and go to the Catskills and like get high in a lodge and run around in the woods. And it was they were a real family at that time. That was like, 2004, 2005, when it was a family-owned business. And she was like, if you need extra money to like support your acting habit, come.
Acting habit.
I mean, I was doing shows. I was actually doing well as an actor, but it was like not making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so she invited me to come in and just be a proofreader and copy editor. And that's how I started. And then I got my first writing assignment. I'll never forget. It was a 100-word book review for the magazine. And it was the memoir of, I can't remember the band, but it was like the lead singer of a band. And I had to write this 100-word review. And I was so nervous about it. And I got paid $100. And that was my first writing for High Times. And that was the beginning of me moving up as a writer. And then they offered me the position of culture editor in, I think, 2014. And so I jumped on board and I was like, I'm all in. This is so exciting.
I love that.
Because at that time I was getting to go to all of the Cannabis Cup events, and like that was right when weed was just barely legal in a few states medicinally. And hadn't really gone adult use anywhere yet.
No, not yet. Yeah.
And so it was just a heady time. Like,
I love that.
It was really cool. And so, that was sort of my journey into writing about cannabis full time as a job. And then I moved out to LA to open up the West Coast office for High Times. Ended up leaving there. And now I write for freelance anywhere that will have me. Rolling Stone mostly, and a couple other places, Playboy.
What do you think because these are iconic brands and names and representations of, media behind cannabis that you keep mentioning. Where do those guys fit? Especially being from that side, being on the production and creative and side of the magazines, and where do you think those fit now? Because print magazines don't really do what they do. Did they do a good job, High Times, of transitioning into this digital era where everybody gets their stuff in 30-second blips and clicks? And do you think people really gather information like they did from the magazine?
Oh, it's such a good question that I could say so much about. I think what really happened the second that the digital age really hit, which was kind of right when I joined High Times. That was right when Snoop launched Mary Jane. That was when Weed Maps started. That was when Leafly started. That like all of a sudden these like proliferation of these digital cannabis platforms were, I hate to say it, but they were doing it better than High Times online. But High Times was like the Bible,
the name.
The legacy brand. And people were giving blood, sweat, and tears to make that magazine happen when it was just legacy, underground, everything.
It was controversial.
They were on lists. They were risking their lives to report on the cannabis movement.
I rated.
And I, everyone I worked with had a pen name because, they couldn't write under their real names, and they thought that I was a narc because I said my name was Mary Jane, and they were like,
no way.
No.
Yeah.
Not real. But like, it was a really amazing time to get to know that group of journalists who were doing the hard, like boots on the ground to report on something that was so illegal. And then when the digital era hit, and then all of a sudden recreational and adult use markets opened up across the country, all of a sudden it was like, I think just harder for High Times to play that game. And they've come back since, and I think they really tried. But like, it was just really interesting to watch this print versus digital thing unfold from a position that I really cared about at a magazine that I loved. So I don't know. It's been interesting to watch. I think that there's also just podcasting, like the information that is coming from podcasts like this. I think people will tune into more easily than going to like buy a magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be able to adapt to the changing times. Like we had so many like digital or one single use camera brands like And then whenever digital cameras rolled around,
Mm-hmm.
they all kind of disappeared. And then digital cameras kind of disappeared when iPhone started making great cameras. So yeah.
Remember the ones you could buy, just wind them up, the disposables?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did
Now
you just
getting
turn the whole
those is
camera
like,
in?
yeah.
Yeah, kitschy now.
Yeah, it's so cool to have those now.
Although I have seen the like Gen Z kids with Polaroids again.
Yeah.
Polaroids are out again, which is so nice.
Yeah.
So I guess like High Times is like the Polaroid of the cannabis media
they're
world. Like,
always going to have a name.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to be interesting to see, how, especially, as in the next 5-10 years, where cannabis is reported in the mainstream. Right now, it's just talked about, but when it has its place, when we can advertise, when we can, be in front of, we can advertise on race cars, NASCAR, boxing matches. It's going to be interesting to see when that opens up. We're going to be like, I remember when they used to ban this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
There are a few journalists out there who I think are doing a great job reporting in mainstream media, but most of the mainstream media publications, when they assign someone to the cannabis beat, that person is so steeped in drug war propaganda, they don't even know, but they're already biased again. Like they just refer to it as, I was listening to you guys talk about this gateway drug or, just using crazy terminology or just misinformation.
Or just saying fake shit altogether.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, making shit up.
Exactly.
They've been taught. It's what they've been taught.
It gives you herpes.
Yeah, exactly. Makes your palms grow hair.
Yeah.
Or no, it makes you grow boobs. That was men.
It lowers your testosterone.
Yes.
It's crazy. I mean, there's a guy named Kevin Sabat. Do you know about him? I can't remember the name of his organization, but he pretends to be pro marijuana and his messaging is so anti.
Oh, no.
And he's just like, it's really interesting to just watch that happen. And he gets a lot of mainstream coverage because he has a big voice. So I just think there's a lot of work that we have to do as writers to disabuse people of a lot of commonly held misconceptions, right?
Well, no, we need to answer that motherfucker.
We need him on the show.
Yeah, no, I'm going to do a anti-cannabis thing and be really pro-cannabis. I'll be the reverse motherfucking Kevin. Fuck you, Kevin.
I think people know where you stand, though.
Yeah. I can't. Maybe in disguise, no?
We can definitely we can get a Lasagna Ganja correspondent to go out and do this work.
Yes. Love it. Troll that guy.
All right. Well, I want to talk about I see you as like a woman activist with your pen and with your voice. So shall we take a smoke break for our new segment, Suppository?
No.
You could call it boofing
Yeah, just call it S break. And then the S can stand for anything you want. Smoke, suppository, I don't know.
All right, well, let's smoke and we'll be back.
All right, Lasagna Ganja Podcast. Stay tuned. It's the Lasagna Ganja Podcast, a mix to the Z Exhibit.
And I'm Tammy, a.k.a. the Cannabis Cutie.
Yes, we are here with Mary Jane.
Hello.
From the Weed+Grub podcast. It is an amazing podcast. If you haven't heard it yet and a fan of cannabis podcasting, Lasagna Ganja, please go check out Weed+Grub. We have Mary Jane here today. And Tammy, we were talking about women empowerment. We were talking about how Mary Jane is very, very heavy with the pen in her writings. I want to hear all about it. And there's some sandwiches involved in this as well, too.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Please break it down.
Okay.
All right.
Well, you read the article.
Yes. So I knew the name Mary Jane Gibson. Absolutely knew the name. So when this article came out, women were posting it. It's like, everybody needs to read this. And when I read it, I was just like, oh my gosh, like I feel this was like, it needed to be said. So that's when I was like, holy shit. Like,
what was the article about?
Thank you so much. So High Times had reached out and asked me if I wanted to contribute to their op-ed series, which is called Weirdos, which is, I can't remember exactly what it stands for, but it's just like every week they'll publish a rant from someone about something that they either, love or hate in the cannabis space. And so John Capetta had reached out to me from High Times and he said, do you want to do one of these Weirdos columns? And I was like, great. What can I write about? And he said, anything. And I was like, awesome. I'm going to write about sexism. Because, when I moved to California, Prop 64 hadn't passed yet. And so I was here when it passed, and it was an amazing time where all of these women were like, this is going to be so great. We get to build this industry. We're all coming on board at the same time. We get to not only have a seat at the table, but like build the table, build the chair that you're sitting in. This can be equitable for everyone. Fast forward a few years, and it's not. Like, people talk to the same people that they always talk to, which is the white dudes from Wall Street. And there's also sexism inside the industry, like not just from outer investors, but like within the industry. I just see a lot of misogyny and like just weird sort of inherent behaviors that I think in some ways are getting worse because of social media. And I just think like the rise of the right around the world has empowered people to just be crazy and say terrible things, especially to women. So I wrote that in the article, and I put in jokes. I tried to make it funny.
Yeah,
I was like, hey,
was
y'all,
very funny,
listen, we get to make this industry look whatever we want it to be. It can be fantastic for all of us. Why don't we do that? And the bros hated it. The bros in the comments on the post were like, sexism is a myth. Shut up and make me a sandwich. Yeah. And I was like,
that's where the sandwiches came from.
That's where the sandwiches came from. So I started interacting with, and I had all these fantastic women like Tammy writing to me and being like, this is awesome, you're saying this, while I was also fighting off all of these dudes who were saying, shut up. And I was like, you're proving my point. This is crazy. Look at the women around you. Look at the women in your life. Look at the women who are like massively impacted by this just like baked in system that does not work. It doesn't work for us, and it also doesn't work for you guys.
Right.
Like, anyway, so I started interacting with the comments, and all these dudes who were telling me to make me a sandwich, I didn't know what it was saying. And I really looked into it, and I was like, oh, this is something that just gets said all the time.
Yes.
Make me a sandwich.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I started saying to the guys, I didn't know you couldn't make your own sandwich. I'm so sorry that sandwich impotence is a thing. I didn't realize.
Triggered.
And they went nuts. And I was like, I've got something here. So I want to open up this conversation and start making my own sandwiches. So now I have a video series where I make a sandwich and I pick a topic and I talk about that topic while I make the sandwich. And it's like, sometimes it's like women aren't bad drivers, and sometimes it's about reproductive rights, and it's a good time. And it all started because of cannabis. And
Wow, that is amazing.
That's a good time. And I was just tagged in a reel where some women in the cannabis industry were like, hey, look at this, it's still going on. And there were terrible comments on some article that was published by Cannabis Now magazine about women. In the comments, make me a sandwich, make me a sandwich. It was just nuts. So it's something that I feel really passionate about addressing, because we have so many allies in the industry. There are so many people who don't want it to look this way, and we just need them to speak up.
Right.
And then we need to step to the front and be, the voices that we are. Like,
just like the plant, we have to deal with a lot of BS that's unwarranted. Last year at one of the biggest weed conferences in the nation, there's a brand called Buy Weed from Women. And it's just to highlight the fact that there are women brands on the shelves, and they deserve just as much as attention. They maybe don't have the funding for the marketing, maybe don't have enough to be scaled and 20 something stores across the state, but we're important. And it's just a call to action. So at the biggest conference in the world, you have triggered men wearing shirts that say buy weed from white men.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And of course that pisses you off, because it's like, one, yes, this is a Black owned company. The owner name is Jasmine. She had very good intentions. And it's like, now you want to troll. And of course, all the chats, everybody thinks it's funny. And it's like, why does our position and us just trying to bring attention to our efforts always have to result into this?
Well, I mean, you talking about a problem that has, among many problems, women's rights has been fought for quite some time. And so in any industry that's, male dominated, this is an issue that comes up. And I think that the strength of people like Mary Jane, yourself, like this has been going on, and, small rotations, even with what we're seeing now in the world, it's things that we are exasperated with, people who are real humans, you know what I'm saying? So, in this industry, there's that, you know what I'm saying? But I think like the strength of what you're doing, the strength of what you're saying is going to stand for what it's supposed to stand for, and bring everybody together, because there is a nurturing feeling that comes from you know. I'm sorry, I lost my track of thought, but there is, because those edibles just kicked in. But there is a nurturing feeling that comes from, having that kind of creative process and having real decision makers. Like women like to build things and grow things. Guys just want to come through and, like you said, they we go for the gusto, the macho, the bravado, and try to overshadow and overpower, but those things are changing. But I would feel like this is a real topic that needs to be brought up and brought to everybody's attention, because sexism is no place for that. There's a lot of smart, capable business women that can do their own thing. We had
Anna Wiley.
Yeah, Anna was here. Anna is definitely a picture example of that. So
yes, like buy weed from her. She's a dope woman who's doing it right and giving people opportunity and taking care of people and uplifting economies. Like, we're just trying to bring light to that, and Jasmine's intention is good. But when you see the other shirts, you know that there's malicious intent. And it's like, see, we ain't even on that type of time. Like, you got your feelings hurt off of something good. I am sorry. Go examine that with your therapist. But why do you got to come and start problems? But it's dope to see people who have power, like you can write something like this in High Times, and then you take the hit for us too.
I mean, thank you for saying that. Taking the hit has felt like such a fight worth fighting. Like, I'm fueled by righteous indignation right now in a way that I don't think I ever have been before in my life, because I'm seeing the injustices of the crazy American political system play out in so many ways that I just feel like I'm fueled up for the fight, and I have fun with it, because when the bros have crazy comments,
and you do it with humor.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, I call them like dumb names like ding-a-ling or ding-dong, and they go crazy. They go crazy. And it's so fun. It's so fun to troll the trolls with a silly. I called some guy Poops the other day, and he just about he lost his mind.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Speaking of favorite ways to troll men, I love when they're going batshit crazy in my DMs and I'm just leaving it on red. Like, they can see it. It's driving them crazy because I'm not reacting. And then I'm just like posting like, oh, I'm out with my friends smoking or eating. And it's just like watching them go berserk.
Man, icing.
Why are they going berserk? Like what?
Because it's what they're doing is they're trying to get attention. So they're being disrespectful. They're being they're just intentionally trying to get you to react. But you have to know, like, the more that you let them look stupid and feel crazy, let them spiral. Let them spiral, because at a certain point, they have to look at their behavior and realize, like, I need to chill out. And this is out of pocket.
When the mask slips a little too far and all of a sudden they see themselves in the mirror looking the crazy way that they do, I think they stop. But letting them spiral, they'll just unravel themselves entirely.
Yeah, no, I had a guy, it was 2 days straight. I finally blocked him. He came from another page, blocked that one, came from another page. I was like, yo.
Yeah. I sometimes will take the worst of the worst and just share them to my story.
Oh, I did do that. I made that mistake, and people went and searched and found his LinkedIn, because he was like, what school did you go to? Phoenix University or something like that. And like, somebody found his LinkedIn. They were like, he went to Salisbury University. And I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, and I never responded to him. Like, I never was like, I went to the University of Miami. Like, I was just like, dude, like,
the projection is wild.
The projection is wild.
It is unhinged. Everything they say about you is 100% about them.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Oh my gosh. Somebody found a comment that he had made. He had tagged me in something and like with a heart and like tag your favorite something. And the girl was like, you just never responded to him. Like, he's triggered because he felt rejected. So now he wanted to take it to me.
Oh my God.
And he made like 20 different stories. He could see like my friends looking at the story and like just it was borderline like harassment. But it was fun to watch. Like, it is. It's like you're emotional.
Yeah, they're fragile and emotional.
Come on,
I did nothing to this man. He was trying to hurt my feelings, and in the process, he hurt his.
We just walked into that door that he opened.
I was just, enjoying it. Like, dang, he's got some deep trauma.
unhealed trauma, and they have not downloaded the lesson.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Weed+Grub.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Weed+Grub.
I'd love to.
You guys been on for 5 years.
5 years through the pandemic.
Tell us about that. Tell us about that.
So it was when I was still with High Times, and I was going to start a podcast for High Times, and I knew I needed a co-host, and so Mike, I had seen his BuzzFeed videos that had gone viral, where he was like getting high and meeting a sloth, or being blindfolded, and then all of a sudden he's smoking with Snoop Dogg.
Yeah,
and I was like, listen, do you want to come and make a podcast with me for High Times? And he said yes. And we recorded a couple episodes that never got released. I don't know what they're probably terrible. But then I left High Times and I was like, do you still want to make something? And he said, hell yes. And so we started it, and we just knew, like, the day we met, we had lunch together, and we like ate lunch the same way. Like, we both ordered dessert first. And we were like, we both love weed. We want to hang out and talk all the time. And that's what's sustained us, I think, is just like that enjoyment of each other. And he brings such different stuff to the table, because he's like, he grew up in St. Louis, and he's a comedian, and he played hockey, and he's like this total guy.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm me.
Yeah.
And we have a good time.
Yeah.
And we try to do, I mean, it's this vibe. It's like, and edutainment, I think, is what we try.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Yeah, I had a great time as a guest on your podcast. It was like,
you've been on the show.
Check out our
it's
episode with
been,
Tammy.
Gosh, summer 2022. Yeah, summer 22.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about it. So you go. So how does a format like go with if somebody who's never heard it?
They have snacks.
There's the snacks during, afterwards,
During. Yeah, we smoke, we snack, and we hang.
Yes.
And we just try to be
Fuck yeah.
buds in people's ears.
Yes.
Mike went to culinary school after being on Worst Cooks in America, and then he like cooked with Gordon Ramsay, so he like knows a lot about food. And I cooked on the boat that I worked on, and I worked in restaurants, so we like love food very much. That's all we want to do, is eat and talk about it, and smoke and hang. And so the format is very much us. We call them loose mooses when it's just us, and we just talk about things like we had a whole episode about corn loading, which is like carb loading, but it's eating a lot of corn before a road trip, so that it just cleans you out, so you don't need to stop to go to the bathroom.
Wow.
Whoa, what the fuck?
That's interesting.
Corn loading.
We
We made it up, but
Wow.
Yeah.
What a
Wait a
strategy.
minute, does it work?
in my experience, if I eat a lot of corn, it tends to make me poop.
What kind of corn?
Corn on the cob.
Like, yeah. Okay.
I mean, there may be better ways to do it, but that was a very fun and silly episode.
Okay, cool. All right, there it is. All right, corn loading.
All right.
All right,
And
we
then-
got to put that in the book.
We also just have a great time talking about food and all the different things that are happening in the cannabis world, and then sometimes we have guests. And it's a great time. We just had Reggie Watts on.
Oh, nice.
We had David Crosby come on, and Trixie
Wow,
Mattel, and
wow.
Melissa Etheridge, and
Wow.
it's like talking to some of the legends who love cannabis, or maybe even don't necessarily love cannabis, but they're interested in talking and just having a conversation about
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
under the sun.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
Yeah.
All right.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Man, come on
And we
now.
record, we drop Wednesdays. And I think we're coming up on 400 eps pretty soon.
400.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good time. And we also have started live shows now. I think we're going to go on the road
Okay.
Okay.
next year. And when you come to our live shows, that's much more like a variety show where we have comedians doing sets.
Okay.
We do giveaways and surprises. And I have a potato costume.
Wow.
And I do potato comedy, which is a pretty good time.
Okay.
This is dope.
The potato is a really good time. She's very silly. She says things like, you might not have heard of her because she's pretty underground. But she's not the only potato in Hollywood. There's also Russet Crowe, famous potato. Iggy Azalea, another famous potato.
Yeah.
silly.
I love that. I love the
Hell
puns.
yeah.
So
Everyone
punny.
loves
That is a great dope. That's evolving. That's taking something and then being able to expand it. Amazing. You know what I'm saying? Take it, and then you realizing that you are using your theater experience too. You know what I'm saying?
Awesome.
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's exactly like when I had moved away from acting into just writing, I missed being on stage so much.
Mhm.
And so this dovetailing of cannabis and
Yeah,
performance
full
Yes.
circle.
makes me really happy. So thank you so much. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah,
And
yeah, that's
come to our
amazing.
live shows. And
Absolutely.
we'll be hosting the MJs
okay
in Las Vegas.
What?
Yes, I think we're going to MJ
Yeah,
this time.
we're gonna try to present together together as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
stoked to see you there.
Mhm.
It
So-
is amazing, man, what cannabis does. We call it the Lasagna Ganja podcast because there's layers to what we do here.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
But we should still have lasagna.
Yeah.
I'll bring some next time. I'll make you a
All right,
lasagna.
yeah, absolutely. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. It's the Lasagna Ganja podcast, Mr. X to the Z exhibit.
I'm your girl, Tammy, aka the Cannabis Cutie.
Mary Jane, how do they get in touch with you?
You can follow me at thisismaryjane_ on Instagram. My podcast is at Weed+Grub on all platforms every Wednesday. And if you want to check out those sandwich videos, that's called It's the Mayo for Me. And thank you so much for having me. This is such a joy, and I love what you're doing. And congratulations on the pod.
Thank you for having us.
It's a
We
cool
love
journey.
talking to everyone in this industry and outside the industry, talking about cannabis, talking about good times and culture. And I'm really struck about your fishing boat story. Falling off a boat, you know what I'm saying? And I saw the pictures. I mean, I really want to go fishing in Alaska. Let's hook that up.
Definitely. We'll hook it up.
Weed field trip.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, y'all. The Lasagna Ganja podcast. We will see you guys next time. Mr. X to the Z exhibit.
Tammy, aka the Cannabis Cutie.
And you already know what time it is. See ya.
Check out the Lasagna Ganja podcast wherever podcasts are streamed.
And check out our separate feed with video episodes.
Available on Spotify and YouTube.
For more information, visit dcpofficial.com.